I'd grown up on a family farm in Florida, and we ran cows down there. I grew up around it. Loved it, but I loved playing music. And so people kept saying, you should go to Nashville. So we did. And I've been here ever since.
How many acres total do you have here?
We own about 1,250, and then I lease about 300 more. I got into the grass-fed deal. I have a friend in upstate New York that's been doing it for years. And he got me interested in it, you know, and then I realized, okay, I can kill a 1,200-pound steer and turn around and sell that meat for an average of $7 or $8 a pound, and I end up with several more dollars. And if I sell that 1,200-pound steer for $1.20 a pound, whatever the live price is, you know, so the revenue cycle on it's just a lot better. And I'm a contrary kind of natured guy anyway.
Very good.
Anything that goes against tradition, I'm for. Mostly Murray Grey crosses and Beefmaster crosses. I use Murray Grey and Beefmaster bulls. I want as small and compact a frame size as I can get. It may weigh 1,250, 1,300. One of the tenets of true mob grazing is there is no system. Well, mob grazing, the form, the shape, the duration, the stock density changes. It changes day in and day out. And we may all be gone for a weekend, so I may put 350 pairs, cows and calves, you know, on 20 acres because I'm going to be gone a couple days. And then on a regular grazing pattern, when we're here moving them once or twice a day, you may have 300 cows on 5 acres for 3 or 4 hours, and then you move them. So the inputs are the hoof action, literally the animals stomping the grass into the ground, which feeds the microbes in the ground. In a typical pattern, rotational pattern, if you let the cattle stay on this piece of ground, they're going to keep eating what they want, what they like, and they'll eat it until they wipe it out. But in mob grazing, they come in, they eat what they like, it shocks the plant. The plant goes into a regrow stage because you move the cattle every day or a couple times a day. So the management is supporting the growth of the plants that the cattle select most. It's the opposite of what you would think. So mob grazing turns the whole system around. A traditional grazing pattern or a fixed grazing pattern or just an occasional rotation pattern, you end up eliminating the most beneficial plants. But in mob grazing, you're supporting the growth of the most beneficial plants. So we've had, I've had orchard grass come back up where I've never planted orchard grass. I've had bluegrass come back in ways that there was never bluegrass here. I've got a lot of Johnson grass, and a lot of these pastures had no Johnson grass. Johnson grass goes crazy now. It really responds to mob grazing, and it's one of the best grasses we have. Ian Mitchell-Ennis and Mark Bader, who's my nutritionist, when I started working with them, they'll really insult you at first if you take it personally, because they'll just say, well, you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. Not really. And I like that. I like somebody that's that direct. So I said, oh, okay. So what do I need to do? They said, you need to start watching the cows and stop believing what you think. So just move the cattle every day and watch the cattle. The cattle are going to show you. And then you'll realize that the performance and the production increases are happening because you're allowing the animals to take care of themselves. And you're managing the ground and the pasture instead of trying to manage the animal. One thing that's happened on every piece of ground that I've managed or that we've managed since we started mobbing is the diversity of plants has just exploded. We've got super diversity in all these pastures. So I mean, there's bluegrass, there's Bermuda grass, there's that foxtail, there's switchgrass, there's orchard grass, and I don't even know. We call that mare's tail. I don't even know the name of half this stuff. But what I watch what the cattle are doing. Humans think they know what cattle need to eat. Humans don't know what cattle need to eat. Cattle know what cattle need to eat. So if you give them a lot of diversity in plant life, what they eat will change. And they'll eat a balanced diet according to what they need because they innately know. what they need. And it changes over the course of the season. This stuff here later on in the summer, they'll strip all the leaves off of this, but now they have enough selection, that's not what they want. But you get into the end of June, 1st of July, but they'll come in here and strip every leaf off of this. You know, why do they do it exactly? Hell, I don't know. I don't have the patience to run a research project, and I hadn't been able to figure out how to speak cow. So, one nice thing about mob grazing is the disposition of your cattle. They're so used to being moved every day that they get used to us coming and going. And they actually look forward to somebody showing up because you're going to open a fence for them and they're going to get a new pasture. We use all single strand hot fences. When these cattle, as they move forward, this fence will be picked up.
Okay.
And the nature of the directions will change too. Like we hardly ever run the fences in the same pattern twice in a row. They'll be in here till tomorrow. They're calving right now, so when the babies are really little, I don't try and mob them up as dense. By the middle of June into June, we'll be able to tighten them up. But when they have little baby calves on them, the calves, you know, the cows will walk off and leave the calf, and the calf will run through the fence. So it's just, there's no point. I've got plenty of grass. The cattle were in here for a day, and now they're gone. They won't come back in here for probably 5 or 6 weeks. So imagine what 6 weeks, you come back here in 6 weeks, this is going to look like this time of year. Once cattle have walked over an area like this, they won't eat it. Once their smell is on a piece of ground, they don't want to eat it. So you usually don't need to back fence for maybe 24 or 48 hours. You don't even need a back fence. You just keep moving them forward and they'll naturally keep moving toward the fresh grass. Not a lot of people have woods that look like this. And this is from about 3 years of unrolling hay up in here. And
So you unrolled it in here?
Yeah, and then we'll put up 2,000 or 3,000 square bales.
Yeah.
And I'm particular, like I'll square bale the first cutting that's got seed in it.
Okay.
Or I'll square bale, I have some seeded Bermuda grass that are planted, 15 years ago.
Right.
So the hay that I feed in here is hay that I know has seed in it that I want here. So we'll just come through and throw square bales out all over the place.
But look at the clover.
Yeah. And I've never limed it. I've never fertilized it. See, I just ran through here with a buggy and spread ryegrass, but the clover and all the other grass that's growing in here is just strictly from seed.
Wheat in there too.
I'll bring the cow herd in here in June, and then they'll come back in August when it's really hot.
Yeah.
You put them back. You don't want to put them in here when they're calving or have little tiny babies, because then they'll run off with their calves, or some of these cows will run off and leave their calf. Then in the winter, it's great in the woods in the winter time because they can get in these hollers and get out of the wind. Mark Bader's company, Free Choice Enterprises, formulates all of these mixes, and all of the forms that these different minerals are in are all the most absorbable. They're all mixed into some kind of a carrier, but like this, the V4's got vitamin A, D3, vitamin E, and a little bit of salt in it. But this is how we feed the 16 minerals. So you just put one mineral in each one of these compartments. Like when I first got into it, I thought, well, I need fall and spring calving to have finished animals year round. But it's not true, because you need to let these grass finished calves get to be a full 2 years old. I really believe that I've learned that. But it doesn't matter if they're 3 years old, so you can just run a spring calving herd and then you slaughter the animal when you slaughter the animal. So this one particular little, I call it a lot, but this particular little pasture right here, creek runs through it, and I pretty much save this for the calves that I'm sorting off my beef out of. Okay, so they've been mobbed their whole life until they get to a point to where they're in the last, 3 or 4 months before we'll slaughter them. They just have free choice, which, the best gains are when you have a handful of animals on a whole lot of ground, and they can be very selective. Okay, so that's virtually what I'm doing there. Like I'm not getting the maximum production out of that particular piece of ground, but that last 60 days or whatever, that last final time frame before they go to slaughter, it's more important the quality of my meat than it is that I get the maximum amount of production out of that 20 acres. And, I still run 500 cows, so I may go through. Right now, I'm probably only going through 100 head of grass-finished cattle a year. It's growing. I'm slowly developing that market. It has to be processed in a federally inspected plant for resale, but that's just part of the formula. There's still a lot better return per animal retailing meat. Either retailing it by the cut, like a grocery store, or retailing it through the restaurant is really great. I have a freezer at Village Wines and Liquors in Hillsboro Village in Nashville. I've got a Pinewood Farms freezer. The guy that owns that, Ed Fryer, that owns that store, is a friend of mine, and he's got a really good clientele, so we sell meat through there. I've got a couple other restaurants in Nashville that I'm going to start selling to. When I start retailing meat out, I can turn a 1,200 pound steer into $3,500. And through the restaurant, it's even better. We've been open 2 years this month.
Everything here is awesome.
People love it. I mean, half of our business, at least half our business, comes from within 30 or 40 miles of here. We get a lot of business from Nashville, from Columbia, from Dixon, from Fairview.
Total $439.
My wife really specializes in gluten-free and dairy-free options and people with food allergies. So a whole family can come in and have 3 or 4 different situations, and they'll fix something for everybody.
It's not as fatty for sure. It's good. It's got a different taste. Cooks different. Totally different.
Yeah, it's got a much better flavor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely better flavor.
And you're happier when you eat it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when you eat our beef, it just makes you happy. Ease into it. You don't want to. I don't suggest jumping in and changing your entire operation overnight. I would ease into it. Probably the most impactful thing I've learned is coming all the way back to the more flexible I can be, the more successful I can be. The flexibility in managing cattle and managing pastures is really a key piece of it.